David Meyerowitz here, Technical Training Manager from Invision. Today I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is to install and set up a NetworkHD solution from WyreStorm. So today we're going to use the NHD 400 series and we're going to do the configuration using a Luxul Managed Switch. So we're going to start by downloading the software from WyreStorm's website. So this is the management suite software that WyreStorm provide. It's an excellent tool to have whether you're using NetworkHD or just one of the standard matrix switches. It's a great tool to have. So you'll see on the WyreStorm website here, under the support tab, you'll see the link here for the management suite. Okay, so when you click on management suite, that'll take you through to the download page and you can click here to download the software. Okay, now it's not a massive application, so it shouldn't take you a few minutes, but once it's downloaded, we'll flick over to the software now. Once it's downloaded, this is what you're presented with. Okay, so you can see there's pattern generators and all sorts of tools that you've got in here, discovery tool for Inado. We're going to concentrate on the NetworkHD console today. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the NHD console, and it's going to ask me whether I want to create a new project or I want to open an existing one. So today we're going to start a new project and I'm going to show you how to build this up from scratch. So we're going to click on OK, ignore the warning there, and this is what we're greeted with. So it's a very simple solution, and today we're going to start by searching for all our devices on the network. So I'm going to go and hit search up here, let it go off and do its thing. Now it's important to note that the default IP address range for the NetworkHD product is in an auto IP address range. Okay, so for those that aren't familiar with auto IP, it's a IP address range that's given to products, as a kind of last resort, if you like. So if there's no DHCP server available, they will go into this auto IP address range. Okay, so you need to put your laptop into that range, so 169.254, and you can get an IP address that WyreStorm advised you use from the manual, and you hit search. Now you can see it's found 6 new devices here. So it's found my RX units over here, and it's found my TX units, so my transmit modules, and my controller over here. So if I just expand this out, you can see my IP address range for these units is 192.168.1. Okay, now these have already been statically assigned, so they're in the range that I've already assigned. But the really nice thing about this software is that once you've found all of your products, if we come to batch commands here and we select, let's say, all of our TX units here, so I've got 3 of the TX units, I can give them a starting and an ending, or a finishing, IP address range. Okay, so I could set all of these from 192.168.1.200 to 192.168.1.250 as an example. Okay, and this will go off and it will do a batch command for all of those TX units that you can see that I've selected down here. Now with the batch commands, you can only do products of the same type. So if I try and do a RX unit in here, it says please select same type of device for this operation. So you can only do TXs and RXs separately. Okay, so that's quite important to remember. Of course, you can filter it down if you've got a huge list. You can start filtering it down and going from there. Now there's lots of other things we can do here. We can change the video settings in here. We can change the startup image, so we can see if there's an idle image. So this is if there's no image on there at all. We can add a logo on here. Now, you guys as integrators, that could be a little message saying, please call X and X AV systems on this number for assistance. Okay, and that will obviously prompt whoever's using the system to call you guys to find out what's going on. We have audio delays we can put into here. We have serial commands that we can test from here. Power settings, EDID settings. Okay, so we can apply an EDID into this if we need to. And the other settings is just a reboot setting or a reset to factory defaults. So we can do that for all of those devices. So once we've assigned all of our IP addresses, we can go through to this menu. Okay. Now the only one that is in a different IP address range is the controller. Okay, so that default IP address range is 192.168.11. Okay, so again, you'll find this in the quick start guide. Put your laptop into 192.168.11, and then you'll be able to find this this unit here, and you can assign it a static IP address from there. Now, while we're talking about IP addresses and networking, it's really important to note that we can actually do this whole system in the no IP address range. Okay, there is actually no requirement really for a IP address to be assigned to any device. Okay, now because this uses multicast, the devices actually become fairly irrelevant. With multicast, we're basically looking for the alias. Okay, so we give every input and output an alias, so that might be you know, the source that it is. If it's a transmit unit, we could put SkyQ box 1 or you know whatever the label might be, and do the same to the receivers. So then when we get into the app, all of those inputs and outputs will show up with those names on them. Okay, so that's a really useful feature, and actually it means that you don't need to be an an IP expert to set up NetworkHD. So treat it like a traditional HD-based T matrix. Have a separate switch that you put all of your NetworkHD kit onto, and the only bit of kit that bridges the two networks together, so your building network or your main network and the NetworkHD network, is the controller. So the unique thing about the controller is it has two Ethernet interfaces. Okay, so it has the control side and it has the AV side. So the real advantage of this is we can choose either the control or the AV side to connect to the WyreStorm network, and the control or the AV side to connect to the main network. And then there's only one link between those networks. Okay, and that's a really advised way of doing it. With multicast data, we do need to set our switch up correctly to handle this this data. So if you know, just to minimize any risk of data spilling out into the network where you don't want it, the best idea is to keep it separate. So you do, as I say, separate switches for your NetworkHD gear, and the only bit that bridges across is the NetworkHD controller. That way you can talk to the controller from the main network, so that might be for your control system or it might be for the NHD Touch app, and all the data that's flying around the network for the multicast is isolated away from your building network. Okay, so again, in a corporate environment, you only need one port access to one port on their network, and you can keep all of your stuff completely separate. Okay, so this is a really valuable piece of information, so do remember that. Okay, so I've got my devices all in here. Now we can go through and give them aliases. Okay, so you just right click on a device, go to the general settings, and you can see this alias name down here. I can change that. So of course I could change that to Skybox. Sorry, this is a receiver, so I could change this to bar TV 1, bar TV middle, bar TV right, you know, whatever you want to do, and go from there. So once we've done this, all our inputs and outputs are assigned with their aliases. We can then go ahead and set up our groups. Okay, now the default group is called ungrouped. Okay, now this can't be changed or edited. Okay, so I'm going to show you when we get into the app how we can ignore this group. But for today, we're going to set up a second group. So I'm going to go to create group here, and I'm just going to call it demo. I'm going to press OK, and you can see here this has created me my second group. Now we need to get our receivers into this group. Okay, so as I mentioned to you guys earlier on, this could be a group of TVs, it could be a video wall, it could be, you know, depending on how you want to divide up your project, you have all these different groups. So all I'm going to do is a batch group change. I'm going to take my receivers here, and I'm going to put those into the demo group. There we go. So I just move those over to the demo group. So I do the drop down, and I can see those have now moved into my demo group. Okay, so again, that's segregating my receivers up into different groups. Once we get into the app, I can show you how to ignore this, because this will show up on the app, so I can show you how that can be ignored. So essentially, that really is the setup done from this side. The only thing we need to do now is we need to upload the configuration to the controller, So we hit upload and away it goes. Okay, so that's really nice and easy. Now, the second thing we need to do is we need to set up our switch. Okay, so I'm just going to open my web browser here. Just going to go to my switch. Okay, so let's have a look at how we configure our switch now. So again, there is a quick start guide for this, so do make sure you've got that to hand, because it's always useful to have the documentation to hand. So we log into our Luxul switch here. We go to the configuration menu. We go down to the IPMC menu and we go to IGMP snooping. Okay, so we're going to go to the basic configuration. And we're first of all going to enable snooping. Okay, so this is really important. We need to enable the snooping here. And on all the ports that I've got devices plugged into on this switch, we need to enable fast leave. Okay, so this is basically telling the switch how to manage that data. Okay, we then go into the VLAN configuration, and we basically need to set a IGMP snooping VLAN essentially. So we add new VLAN, call it number 1. Enable snooping, enable the querier. We give it a querier address, which is essentially a fake address in this instance, because we don't actually have a VLAN. We need to force the compatibility, so use forced IGMP version 2, and that is all the settings we need to do in the switch. Okay, so it's a really easy operation. It takes, as you can see, seconds to do that. So this is a really simple, basic configuration. There are more advanced configurations, but we're just going to use the basic one for today. So if I now go down to administration, go to configuration, and save startup config. So we need to save that into the configuration, the startup configuration file of the managed switch. So just something to be aware of on managed switches: if you don't save this configuration into the startup config, if you reboot the switch, it will go back to its default. Okay, so bear in mind you do need to do this. So save startup config and you're all good to go. So that is how to set up the NHD system. Okay, so we're going to move over to the app now, and I'm going to show you how we set up the NetworkHD Touch app. Okay, so let's have a look at how to set up the NHD Touch app. So first of all, download it from the App Store. It's a free download, so if you type in NetworkHD Touch, that will come up on your relative app stores. So the first thing we need to do is connect to the controller. Now you can see the IP address down there, 192.168.1.243 is the IP address of my controller. So when you first open the app, it will ask you to put in the IP address of this device. Now, once you've connected, the first thing we need to do is get rid of that ungrouped group that I told you about earlier. So come into the advanced settings here. And you can see under this setting here, decoder group and control settings, you can see that ungrouped group is there. Okay, now this is going to read all of the data from the controller, so it's going to see this ungrouped, and we just want to toggle that to off. Okay, so that will be on by default. Just toggle that to off, and then obviously demo will be there as well. So this is quite useful. So again, in a commercial situation, you might have an iPad per zone as an example. So rather than doing 5 different configurations for the 5 different zones, you just do one configuration, as we've already done, and then you choose on the relative iPad for that zone which groups they want to control. Okay, so again, a really nice, easy way of securing that a bit better. So once we've done that, we'll go back to the home screen. Okay, so you can see, first of all, you get a video preview of the sources. So you can see down the bottom here, so I've got 3 inputs. So I've got a little WyreStorm test image on the first one. I've got a short animation video on the second input. And I'm actually taking the third input from the on-screen interface of an RTI XP8V processor. Okay, so you can see we're connected, so you can see the connected sign at the top. You can see down the bottom right hand corner we have displays on and off. Okay, so this could be for the CEC commands. Okay, so if you're using CEC enabled screens, we could program that up so that we can turn those displays on and off from the app here. Okay, now if you want to do source control as well, a good option to go for is to actually use WyreStorm's Inado controller. Okay, so that will give you IR control for sources, IP control for sources, RS-232, and we can control those local sources and actually embed those controls into the app here. Okay, so come on the training course for NetworkHD if you want to learn how to go ahead and do this all in full, of course. So I can see my group here, so I've got my demo group, so I'm going to go into that group. Now you can see on my different controllers, I've got my different sources. Okay, now that video is just starting there on the right hand side, and you can see it's a 1 frame per second preview. Okay, so you know it's not the best quality stream, it's quite low resolution, but it is live. Okay, so think about this from you know, for a commercial point of view. So think about it from a you know, from a sports bar point of view. The turnover of staff is quite heavy in those sorts of environments. Yeah, you get a lot of people, young people in particular, you know, being turned in and out of these types of positions. You don't really want to have to teach everybody how to use the system every single time. So if they can see my sources down the bottom and they're labelled Sky Sports F1, Sky Sports Cricket, Sky Sports, you know, football, whatever it might be, all we then need to do is pick that up and drag and drop that onto the output that I want to use. Okay, so it could not be easier to use from a functionality point of view. If I want to go to all screens, let's take this animated video here, I drag it down to all screens and it will send that to all the different screens. Okay, so it really could not be easier to use this app. And again, I can put my output to there and just show you how quick and easy that is for switching. Okay. We have presets here, so that can be for video walls, it can be, you know, presets that they can save, so they can turn it on in the morning, press preset 1 and all the channels will go automatically to those various inputs and outputs. Alright, so a very simple system to install. I hope you've enjoyed the video today. So for more information, please go to invisionuk.com/training. Where you can see all the dates for our up and coming WyreStorm training for Network-HD, so you can get involved and come and sit and do this practically with me for a day. Okay, so thanks again for watching. For more information on the WyreStorm product range, please contact your regional sales manager or call us on the office number on 01359 270 280. Thanks very much for watching.